databases are special ABAP programs that retrieve data and make it available for processing to application programs and queries. These databases provide a specific view of the database tables in the SAP system. Logical databases can perform the following tasks. Data retrieval. In data retrieval, personal data for each employee is loaded into the main memory where it is available for processing. Selection. On a selection screen, you can select employees according to organizational criteria. For example, you can retrieve data for all hourly wage earners in a particular part of the enterprise. Authorization check. In authorization check, the system checks whether the user starting a report is authorized to view the data in the report. Performance improvements in logical databases are passed on to all related programs and queries without them needing to be changed themselves.
The system includes the following logical databases that enable you to create Infosets for HR. PNPCE will replace PNP, PCH, PAP. The logical database you need to use when creating an Infoset is determined by the HR components on which you need to report. The logical database PNPCE is intended to replace the logical database PNP. To report data from personnel administration, payroll, or time management, you should use the PNPCE logical database to create Infosets. The PNPCE logical database offers the following features. PNPCE can be used with concurrent employment. For more information about concurrent employment, see SAP Note 517071. PNPCE contains the following enhancements and new features. Customizable list box for setting the reporting period that is intuitive and easy to use. Simplification of individual specification of person and data selection periods. Integration of reporting period and payroll period on one screen. No screen change required. Clearly structured selection screen with all push buttons in the general application toolbar. Clearly structured in-place display of dynamic selection options, optionally as a dialog box, as with PNP. Support for selection IDs while selecting personnel numbers.
Infotypes are units of information in HR. Infotypes group together coherent data fields. Infotypes are ways of structuring information that is reported on by reports or queries. To preserve the history of infotypes, the system saves them in time-specific records. The system records a validity period for each infotype record. Usually there are several data records for each of an employee's infotypes. The records are distinguished by their differing validity periods. Using the following time constraints, you specify how the data records of an infotype react to each other over time. Time constraint 1. For the time an employee belongs to the enterprise, there must be exactly one valid data record of a particular infotype. Time constraint 2. At any particular point in time, there can be at most one valid data record of a particular infotype. Time constraint 3. At any particular point in time, there can be unlimited valid data records of a particular infotype. For a personnel or applicant number to exist, the actions 0000, organizational assignment 0001, personal data 0002, and payroll status 0003 infotypes must exist. You use logical database PCH if you want to report on data from the following components: organizational management, personnel cost planning, training and event management, personnel development, e-recruiting, learning solutions / enterprise learning, succession planning. If you create Infosets using logical database PCH, you can restrict the Infoset using an object type. The Infoset can only be used for ad hoc query if it has been restricted using an object type. In this instance, the system only allows you to select info types that are relevant to the selected object type. If you do not restrict the Infoset using an object type, the system allows you to select all of the info types available in Logical Database (PCH). Organizational management is based on the concept that each element in an organization is depicted as an independent object with individual characteristics. These objects are created and maintained individually and then connected to each other using relationships as shown in the figure. This creates a flexible network that enables you to carry out personnel planning, previews, and reports. Because cost centers are not maintained in organizational management, they are an external object type. For example, in customizing, you can enhance the existing data model by defining new object types and allowing new relationships between object types. Each standard object type name consists of 1 or 2 letters. The customer namespace is 00 to 99. This data model with object types and relationships is also the foundation for other personnel planning applications, such as training and event management, like business event hierarchies, and personnel development, like qualifications catalog. An Infoset can be based on only one logical database. Therefore, you can select only one logical database to create an Infoset. In each of the following situations, which can arise for logical databases PNP and PCH, you need to decide which logical database to use to create a corresponding Infoset. You want to output data from info types 0000 to 0999 and data from some info types from the PCH database, such as personnel development or training and event management info types. In this case, you must work with logical database PNP or PNPCE. If you create an Infoset using PNP or PNPCE, you can include info types from PCH in the Infoset. You want to report on all HR master data info types. In this case, you must work with the logical database PCH. When you create the Infoset, do not select an object type, in which case you can only work with SAP query, or select the object type P, that is person, or S, that is position.
Report data from the recruitment component, select the logical database PAP to create Infosets. The system then automatically provides you with a selection of relevant info types.
Infosets are special views of logical databases which determine the fields of the logical database that can be reported by queries. Because the system contains a large number of fields in logical databases, it is not practical to offer all of them for selection when creating queries. Therefore, before creating queries, you need to create Infosets. Each logical database has a standard selection screen that is determined by the structure of the logical database. Irrespective of the structure of the database tables used, the selection screen contains the selection parameters that are most frequently used. When you define reports with logical databases, you seldom need to select selection fields explicitly, because they are already included in the standard selection screen. Another method of acquiring an overview of the selection parameters of a logical database consists of defining and executing a query on the logical database. All of the selection parameters are included in the selection screen. If many parameters are available, you can display them by choosing further selections. Customer info types, namespace 9000 to 9999 can be included in Infosets created for HR components. Infosets are assigned to user groups and are structured according to their field groups. Field groups in HR correspond to info types.
Infosets are only available to users if the users have been assigned to user groups. The prerequisites for working with ad hoc query and SAP query are as follows. You have created Infosets and user groups. You have assigned Infosets to user groups. Users can now create queries.
To set up an appropriate working environment for end users, the system administrator maintains user groups. Users who work in the same application are grouped together in user groups. All users assigned to a user group can execute the queries of that group, irrespective of which user defined the query. However, users assigned to a user group can only change and redefine queries if they have the appropriate authorization. Users can copy and execute queries in any of the user groups to which they belong. Whether or not they can change existing queries of those user groups depends upon whether or not the change log has been implemented. Each user can be assigned to more than one user group.
Query areas are of two types, standard and global. In the standard query area, all query objects, such as queries, infosets, and user groups, are created and managed per client. The query objects are not linked to the workbench organizer. Therefore, they cannot be entered and transported using the normal correction and transport procedures. This enables the end users to develop queries in their clients that are not intended for system-wide use. In the global query area, query objects are cross-client. They are linked to the workbench organizer and can be entered and transported using the normal correction and transport procedures. However, you're not required to run any activity before or after transports. Therefore, the global query area is suitable for queries that are developed and distributed as centrally usable objects. Note, query objects that are delivered by SAP as of release 4.0 are also stored in the global query area. The transactions used to maintain query objects check the name syntax. You are allowed to use only name prefixes for query objects in the global query area. SAP query objects can be imported into the global area cross-client when the system is upgraded. These objects provided by SAP use the reserved name prefix SAP query. If you create queries in a user group whose prefix belongs to SAP, a partner, or another customer, the queries inherit the prefix of their user group. Such user groups could end up in the system after a release upgrade or transport. The query then constitutes part of the objects assigned to the namespace specified by the prefix of the user group.
Maintenance interface for an InfoSet is set up as follows. You select info types for an InfoSet using the checkboxes in a tray control. If you create an InfoSet using HR master data, such as a logical database, PNPCE, or PNP, the HR info types are grouped according to the selected user group. You can set the user group through the Change User Groups View function. In the info types of related objects group, use allowed relationships to select the objects from personnel planning and related info types. You can define the sequence of field groups within an info set and the sequence of fields in a field group. You can rename field groups and fields. The info set is displayed in the info set query according to the settings that were made when it was created. You can add additional info types or delete existing ones. You can only delete an info type if none of its fields are used in a query.
You use the logical database PCH to create an info set to select objects in the info set query. First select the object type. The info types are then available for selection. In addition, all object types with which the selected object type can be related are listed under info types of related objects. The next level of this hierarchy display shows all relationships that can exist between the relevant object type and the object type that can be selected. The next level of display shows the info types for the selected objects.
The InfoSet maintenance interface is divided into the following sections. Data field management. The complete left-hand side of the screen displays data field management in a tree structure. Field group management. This section is located at the top right corner in a tree structure. Technical details management. This section is located at the bottom right of the screen and displays the details of a field for detailed processing when you double-click the field. The data field is displayed in two different formats, with or without text field. If the data field is displayed with text field, it means that the system has found a text for this field. For example, in another table. You can find the link through a foreign key in the dictionary. When you process the query, specify in the settings whether the system outputs the value of the data field or the value of the text field. Note, to see the context menu of functions for the nodes in the tree structure, right-click an object. For example, to assign a data field to a field group, right-click the relevant field group. In the query, you can only select fields that you have assigned to a field group. If you use generic reporting tools such as SAP Query and Infoset Query, the source code is automatically generated using the query generator. The source code generated in this way is regulated by the generation logic of the query generator and query definition. As of SAP Enterprise Core 4.70, SAP HR580, a new query generator is available in SAP Query for the logical databases of HR.
The following list contains examples of general switches and their descriptions.
For detailed information about the switches and how they are used, see the documentation for the customizing activity Create Infosets for HR. To access these customizing activities, choose Personnel Management, Human Resources Information System, HR Settings. For SAP Query, Create Infosets for HR.
The report_class switch is used to define a report category that enables you to control the structure of the selection screen. This report category concept applies to the logical databases PNP and PNPCE. Each report that is based on either of the two logical databases can be assigned to a specific report category. Because PNP and PNPCE use different report categories, you must ensure that the specified report category is created for the logical database used in the info type. Note, the report_class switch cannot be used for infosets that are based on databases other than the logical databases PNP and PNPCE. Because each query is a generated report, you can assign report categories to queries too. Ad hoc query does not use the data selection screen of the logical database to define the selection conditions. Therefore, the specification of a report category in ad hoc query has no obvious effect.
Data does not always exist for all info types that are displayed in a query. By default, queries display initial values for persons or objects for which no data records exist. Alternatively, you can choose not to display persons or objects for which no data records exist. To do this, use the data_required switch. If the switch is set, a person or object is displayed only if at least one data record exists in the evaluation period. Note, before Release 4.0, only persons for whom data records existed were displayed by default.
Enter the short text and choose Create. Then select the logical database PNPCE. To make Infoset specific settings, on the Change Infoset Name of Infoset screen, choose Go to Code Data.
In the right screen area, Coding tab or Coding section data, enter the switch and the value for the setting you require. See the documentation in Customizing under HR Settings for SAP Query, Create Infosets for HR. Check the generated code for the query. In the maintenance transaction for queries, choose Query, More Functions, Display Report Name. In the ABAP editor, Enter the report name, display, and find HR log. The term additional fields covers all the fields that do not exist in the database table of the corresponding info type, but that are available for reporting purposes. The additional fields can be grouped under the following categories. Standard additional fields. These fields are additional fields that are required by most customers. They are available in the standard system when Infosets are created. Additional fields defined by customers. These fields are defined by customers to meet company-specific requirements. They can be created in customizing for HR or when an Infoset is created. If you create these fields in customizing under HR settings for SAP query, additional information about Infoset maintenance, define additional fields. They are always available when you create Infosets. If you create them in an Infoset, they are only available in that particular Infoset. Note, like additional fields, local fields are used to meet specific requirements. They are defined within a query and are available only for that query, such as SAP query.
To use ad hoc query to receive logs about the execution of queries, you must link an Infoset to logging. You can do this in the maintenance transaction SQ02 in the extras menu. If you then create and execute a query using this Infoset, the query does not have to be saved. The system saves information such as the user and entries on the selection screen, table, EQPROT. You can report on this information using the data browser, existing queries from user group /SAP query/query_logging in the user group SAP query SQ in the global work area, or with your own queries. You can delete the logs in maintenance transaction SQ02 under extras managed logs. You access a selection screen on which you can restrict the logs that are deleted. For example, you can delete all the logs for a user.
Logs are optional. You can log the queries that have been started using ad hoc query or Infoset query. The following fields are logged. Query area, Infoset, user, date and time, selection fields, selection values, selection options, output fields. You can switch the log function on and off. You can delete any logs that you no longer require. Furthermore, you can add your own log function using the business add-in AQ_query_prot. You can also analyze the logs with Infoset query or data browser. For more information about logs, in customizing, choose SAP NetWeaver Application Server, SAP Query, Logging.